Paranormal King Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of August 28th, 2018. And this is officially episode number 366. And this is your host, as always, Dr. Brian D. Parsons. And we got a packed night tonight. I kind of ran over a little bit last week, but you're kind of used to that, I think. And it's going to be tight tonight, too. There's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. The Loch Ness Monster. We're also going to talk about Bigfoot. We're going to talk about your normal suspects here tonight on the Paranormal News Insider. But what about the Loch Ness Monster? There's been a lot of sightings lately. They might break the record for the number of sightings in a year. Another child, yes, a child, might have found the Loch Ness Monster, but a school secretary might have found it first. Police are on the lookout for a missing Sasquatch in Montana. That's a big breaking story. We'll also talk about a female Yowie described by witnesses, and hopefully the sun will be down in your area, so the kids might not hear some of those little parts about the female. And we'll also talk, this is the one of the more interesting stories we're going to have. Ghost baby woman joins Mile High Club. I can't make that stuff up. And ghost baby woman joins Mile High Club is a sentence that I never thought I would ever see or say, for that matter. And we'll also talk about how to make ghosts disappear. And hopefully I'll have that story that I was supposed to talk about last week, but I decided to let you guys go to bed at your normal time. The famous radio dish to be replaced by a camel. Yes, I know you're confused, and I hope I can explain that. All of that coming up tonight, right here on the Paranormal News Insider, right here on the Paranormal King Radio Network from ParanormalKing.com. And kind of, I wasn't really thinking about this. I kind of forgot. I don't know how I could forget, but time catches up with you sometimes, and was going through some things, trying to get some graphics and things ready for my website, because I realized that I kind of lost everything when I lost my computer a couple of weeks ago. So I was scrounging around trying to get some things together, and I was looking at some statistics and different things, and I realized that next week will mark the 10-year anniversary of the Paranormal News Insider. So it's going to be a special time, a special event for me. I'm excited about it. We're not going to do we're not going to do like a best of or a flashback. I'll just talk a little bit about the history of this show. I'm not going to put you to sleep with the all the statistics and things that I did last time, even though I lost all that stuff. When I did the 300th show, which was a huge marker. 300 shows is huge, but we're at 366. That's all well and good, but 10 years to do a radio show. I don't care what you're involved in, what you do. A radio show that goes 10 years, that's pretty hard to do, especially with the radio business. And anybody out there who has a radio show or is even a podcast knows it's a lot of tough work. There's a lot of things that go into it. And terrestrial radio itself, outside of internet radio, is pretty unforgiving. It's pretty tough business. But yeah, I've stuck with this, and I've been doing this. It will be 10 weeks as of next week. Hopefully I make it. Still got a week to find out, but I'm sure I'll be okay. And I'm really excited about that. So September 4th, next week, will mark the 10-year anniversary of the Paranormal News Insider. And what a journey it's been through a number of different networks. I couldn't even tell you the networks I've worked with over the last 10 years, and also worked with a terrestrial radio station out of Marysville, Ohio for almost a year. So that was pretty cool. and flirted with the potential. We almost went to satellite radio. It was a deal that kind of fell through, but excited to be here nonetheless on the Paranormal King radio network. And yeah, the first pre-recorded episode I did actually came out on September 2nd. That's when I saw the file upload. I can't remember what day the show was actually taped because it was pre-recorded as well, but I'm pretty sure it was either the 3rd or the 4th. So it's going to be pretty spot on as being just about exactly 10 years. So I'll be excited for it. And started out on a show called The Grand Dark Conspiracy. And I tell you, like I said, every radio show, they've got some sort of claim to fame. They got some kind of moniker that goes with their show. But I'm just happy to have brought you a consistent format of paranormal news for 10 years. I've had a lot of people tell me that what I'm doing is silly and I should be interviewing people, and I'm going about things the wrong way, and nobody wants to hear this, and nobody wants to hear one person babble on for 60 minutes or even 15 when I was doing just a pre-recorded segment. But I'll tell you what, I've gotten a lot of good feedback, and as long as I'm getting support for that, and as long as I have people that are angry or hating what I do, then I'm going to keep doing it. Because obviously if I'm making people mad or people are copying what I'm doing, I must be doing something right. So after 10 years, I don't know what to look forward to. I guess 500 shows would be my next huge marker to work toward. That would be another couple of years. But let's take one step at a time. And yeah, one step at a time. Well, speaking of upcoming next couple of years, next year, and yeah, you probably already know what I'm going to talk about, but I got to talk about it. It's a big news this week as far as the upcoming 2019 PA Bigfoot camping adventure that's taking place next year, May 31st through June 2nd, 2019, at the Benner's Meadow Run Campground in Farmington, Pennsylvania. Well, if you haven't heard, tickets are going to go on sale this Saturday, September 1st. It's going to be a very special day, very important day in the world, not just because those tickets are going on sale, but that's also my birthday, so I'm a little excited about that. But get your tickets quick. If you plan on going, you might want to stay up late on Friday night. You're going to want to get these tickets, and when you hear this guest list, you'll know why. And a big tip also, even if you get your tickets, you're still going to want to lock in some lodging. Get some lodging now. Don't wait for when tickets go on sale. You're going to need a place to stay. It is taking place at the Benner's Meadow Run Campground in Farmington, Pennsylvania. I don't know what kind of availability is left. There's not a whole lot around that area, so you're going to want to kind of do a little research and find that out. I know I got my place to stay, so I'm not worried about it. No, there's not enough room in my tent for you, so don't even ask. And in case you've also missed it, there's actually been 3 celebrity guest announcements in the last couple of weeks. I did talk about one of them already, maybe 2 of them. I don't remember. Celebrity guest number 1 was none other than the Appalachian Investigators of Mysterious Sightings, AIMS. And if you know that, then you already know. But if you don't know who the Appalachian Investigators of Mysterious Sightings are, well, those are the guys from the Mountain Monsters television show. And they'll be making their 2nd straight appearances at the PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, which did take 2018 off. It's been running the last 2 years prior. And Eric Altman, who puts it on, he was a little burned out after last year, and I don't blame him. It's tough. I did an event earlier this year. It was pretty basic, pretty simple, and I still had quite the headache after dealing with that. So I get it, and I fully understand it. But and I think it might make next year even more special. Getting that ramp up, people really wanted to see this. They wanted to have this event, and he teased everybody. He took the year off, but it was well-deserved. So the Mountain Monsters will be making their return, 2nd straight appearance. Celebrity number 2, guest celebrity number 2 was Bill Brock. And last night, the third celebrity guest announcement was made. And I'm not going to tell you yet because I want to tell you who the speakers are. So there's 12 speakers in all that are going to be at the 2019 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. The first announced guest was actually a father and son duo. Jay and Blake Bachochin will be presenting. And Jay is going to be debuting his new movie he's put together, Finding Jay. It's about his research up there in Wisconsin near Bray Road, which I'm sure you might have heard of before with the Beast of Bray Road. Also speaking is Stan Gordon. He's back. I believe he's been there all 3 years as well. Jay spoke last year. He just hung out, I think, the first year, but great guy. I can't wait to hang out with him again, although he's pretty much open invitation for me to come up to Wisconsin. The third speaker, Paul G. Johnson. Next speaker, Rick Fisher. And Rick Fisher, I'll be hanging out with him in October of this year at the Albatwitch Festival. Looking forward to that. He's a very down-to-earth, very even-keeled guy, just like myself, I'd like to say. Also speaking, Dave Spinks, David Weatherly, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Seth Breedlove, who was the 2017 Cryptozoologist of the Year, as voted by Lauren Coleman of the International Cryptozoology Museum up in Portland, Maine. Also, good friend Ronald Murphy Jr. will be speaking. Good friend Dave Drageson will also be there. And Steve Coles, the Squatch detective himself, will be back again. I believe he has been there the first 2 years. Awesome guy. Love hanging out with Steve. And, well, that's 11 speakers. The 12th, well, it's yours truly. And I'll tell you what, I'm really, I don't know, I'm excited to be part of this. I mean, these are some really, really big people here that are going to be speaking. So I'm excited. I'm excited that I was asked to speak, and I don't even know if I deserve this, but I feel very honored to be amongst these great researchers and investigators here. But that's not all. That's not all, because there's also special guests that are going to be there. Special guests all throughout different things. There's a guy, you might know him, Lon Strickler. You might be familiar with him, with his show that's right here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. Also, some of his friends are going to be there. Butch Witkowski and Sean Forkchop Forker will also be there. So triple threat. When those three guys are together, let me tell you what, there's always trouble, but it's good trouble. Looking forward to seeing those guys again. Also, Jimmy and Diane Trick from Goosebumps Paranormal will be on hand. The Ohio Night Stalkers. Colin Schneider, one of the youngest cryptozoologists out there. Former radio host at the same network together. Great guy. I guess he's a kid. Well, he's not a kid. He's a little older now. And Walt the Music Man Shrum. I'll tell you what, he's got infectious songs. And the list, I mean, gosh, this list goes on and on. The Paranormal Miners are going to be there. The Mountain Gypsies are going to be there. Yeah, and then these guest celebrities. And yeah, let me just say, I'll come out and I'll say it. The last, well, it's not really the last. It's the third celebrity guest. So there's still one more to go. There'll be one on Thursday night. So just keep that in mind. Thursday night is the next guest celebrity that will be at the 2019 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. But the one that was announced last night is none other than Dr. Don Jeff Meldrum. So yes, Dr. Jeff Meldrum will be on hand. And I tell you, I'm giddy. I'm excited. This is going to be a knockout event. And again, just think, there's still one more person to go. So this is going to be a huge event, folks. And if you don't get your tickets at midnight, the stroke of midnight, Saturday morning, you might be left out in the dust. And I'll tell you what, one more celebrity guest, and I think Eric Altman and his buddy Ricky Chirby, who have really been putting things together, getting this thing going. They've got a whole kind of network of people that are helping out with this. They've done a heck of a job so far, and I'm excited. I already know the name, but I'm not going to say it. Thursday night, I have a really strong suspicion I know who it is, but you will have to wait till next Tuesday, or you can go on Facebook and find the 2019 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. It'll pop up, and you're going to want to follow. You're going to want to see that guest. Even if you can't go, you don't want to go, you're going to want to hear. You're going to want to hear. This is going to be really awesome. This is going to be probably the biggest cryptozoology event on the East Coast. Well, maybe not, but it'll be darn close. And I'll tell you what, it's very unique because not only are there guest speakers, there's all these special guests, but there's going to be a lot of other stuff that's going to be going on with this, including day and night hikes. So we'll be taking people out and teaching them how we do this stuff. And there's going to be workshop presenters, videos, and again, some movies are going to be played during that you've probably never seen. It's not stuff that's out there. So you definitely want to get tickets for this thing. Get out there. You're going to want to. This is the experience of a lifetime, I'm telling you. And they've been saying that for the last couple of years. And I'm telling you what, the two events I went to are by far the two best cryptozoology and maybe even the best paranormal events I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot. And I've been to them from Maryland to the Toronto, Canada area. I've been up there for a conference. All the way out to Oklahoma, down to Texas, Florida, and everywhere in between. I've been everywhere. I should write a song about that. Wait, I think it's already been done. But this is a unique, one-of-a-kind adventure, and it's great for the kids. It's very kid-friendly, so don't worry about that. So again, get your tickets this Saturday, and don't forget to book lodging for this event. So only 500 tickets will be sold. That's it. And as far as I know, Seth Breedlove will be in attendance. I know there was an event I was at earlier where he was supposed to be there, but it was actually he was just showing his video, and there was a little bit of confusion behind that. But Breedlove will be there. I mean, goodness gracious, I could drive to his house right now and be back before the end of the show. He lives pretty close, so I'll pick him up if I have to. He's a very popular guy at this time because of all his stuff he's got coming out. So. But he was there the last 2 years, so definitely think he will be there. He definitely should be there, and he will be showing, I think, his Chestnut Ridge movie, which is awesome because you can literally pretty much drive there in about 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes away. It's pretty close. So again, there's going to be day and night hikes, all these presenters, all sorts of workshops, vendors, you name it. There's going to be food trucks. I'm going for the food trucks. And to see Jay. I miss Jay. But anyway, yeah, get your tickets. Don't forget, this Saturday. Did I say that already? I can't remember. It's truly the experience of a lifetime. The 2019 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. That's the tagline. Experience of a lifetime. But I've been saying this. I say it's going to be intense because we're intense. As far as I know, no beer, and yeah, bring your own equipment. Whatever you have works out. I don't need flashlights. I can see in the dark pretty well. I'm not a fan of flashlights unless you're, in tripping over stuff. But anyway. Excited about that, can't you tell? But that's the big thing here, the big announcement. So probably remind you next week if you haven't got your tickets to get them. But I'm a little excited about that. But anyway, we got to get into the news here. You guys are holding me up. It's your fault. No, it's not. So cryptid news this week. Quite the array of Loch Ness Monster stuff. So in late May of this year, kind of looking back, there was an 8-year-old girl and her grandmother that spotted a disturbance in the Loch Ness as they sat near the shore. The young girl ended up filming the disturbance with her grandmother's phone because, kids know technology better than the adults do, as always. So her grandmother was snapping some photographs, but the 8-year-old borrowed the camera and started filming. Now, the sighting ended up becoming an official sighting, according to the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register that is maintained by Gary Campbell. Now, a 12-year-old girl on holiday with her parents last Friday, August 17th. Okay, and if you don't know, a holiday, I guess that wasn't last Friday. It was 2 Fridays ago. August 17th, at any rate. So holiday, that's actually a vacation to those of us here in the United States. I don't know if they say that in Canada. You guys say that in Canada, holiday? I don't know. Yeah, they were on holiday, vacation, whatever you want to call it, and they captured photographs of what many believe is definitely, no question about it, definitely the Loch Ness Monster. Charlotte Robinson said of her encounter, quote, "There was something in the water about 50 feet from shore. I took a photo. It had a neck and a head and was in the shape of a hook. I just took what I saw. It was black. I just don't know how far it was out of the water. I'm not good at judging distances. But after a minute, it disappeared and then came back up again in a different place. It was up for less than a minute the second time. I kind of believed in Nessie, but I wanted to see the proof. I always imagined her as having long neck and flippers," unquote. So I guess Nessie is a girl. Okay. I don't know how we know that, but I guess we know that. Well, anyway, her mother said Charlotte had been talking about the Loch Ness Monster for quite a while before the holiday, and that Friday night around 7 p.m., she took the photograph. Charlotte said the figure was visible for about a minute, again, and then surfaced about 10 feet away 7 minutes later. Exactly what's in the photograph, though, to me, it's pretty difficult to determine. It's pretty hard to tell because the distance at which the photo was taken, there's no detail. You can't really make anything out. The dark area doesn't really provide enough detail to figure out what it was. I mean, it could have been anything. It could have been a duck. It could have been a log. It could have been a seal. Could have been an otter. Could have been a deer. Could have been a log, a stick. I don't know. Could have been the Loch Ness Monster, but I think that's lowest on the list right now. Potential suspects would be the Loch Ness Monster, but became an official sighting according to Gary Campbell. So that's exciting news. But wait, that's not all, as they say in the, I guess the late night, those late night infomercial type things. Well, that didn't work. Yeah, so if you're in the, well, I guess I left. I didn't know where I went. I went somewhere. If you're in the chat room, you're seeing me struggle. Now I'm back. So anyway, yeah, that was an interesting sighting, but that's not it. That's not the whole story. Thank you, King, for getting my thing right. I'm just having difficulty with the my links in the chat room. I'm trying to keep you guys up to date. So if you're in the chat room, I try to keep you up to date with these links and these stories. So I'm giving you the information where I primarily get my information. It might not be the only source. I do have several sources for some of these stories, but I do try to give them out in the chat room. But if you're not in the chat room, I get it. We all have things to do. You can't always be available to hang out with me here on every Tuesday night live here on ParanormalKing.com. But I forgive you. But through Facebook, which is connected to my Twitter, Paranews Insider and at Paranews Insider, so Facebook and Twitter, respectively, I do punch out these links during the week, and got quite a few to go this week. But anyway, back to the Loch Ness Monster. The last site, I'm sorry, the last story is just part of the story. So earlier, the same Friday, August 17th, the same day, a 54-year-old elementary school teacher from Ontario, Canada, It's a popular place. Who was on vacation. Well, no, she wasn't. She was on a holiday to Glasgow, Scotland, obviously, in the neighborhood, to visit family. She was at the Urquhart Castle at the time. Pretty popular place there. She spotted something moving under the water with bubbles coming up from the surface from it. The object, which is kind of hard because Loch Ness, if you've ever, I don't know if you've swam in there, but I haven't swam in there either, but I've seen video. Google had a camera a couple of years ago that you could actually go through the water. It was pretty murky. You really can't see very much underneath it. Anyway, the object came to the surface a few times, and then the woman, Lynn Locke, sounds like a superhero name, got a few pictures. Now, her sighting came at 9:40 a.m. on that August 17th, about 12 miles from the site where 12-year-old Charlotte Robinson had hers at 7 p.m. the same day. Wow, could that be a coincidence? Two random pictures of something poking out of the water taken the same day, 12 miles apart? I mean, what are the odds? What are the chances? Could this be real? Well, Gary Campbell, again, head of the official Loch Ness Monster sightings website, well, he doesn't seem to think so. He says, quote, "I think it is more than a coincidence that the same unexplained but moving object has appeared near the same shore, but 12 miles apart on the same day. The pictures were taken sometime apart, which would allow it to swim the distance," unquote. So that's our logic. Since it could have swam the distance, it's definitely the same creature. No, I'm not agreeing with that. I kind of argue that point. You can't connect those two dots. There's a lot of speculation there, and you can't connect those two things. You don't know if they're really related. Just because they look the same doesn't mean it's the same thing. Just because two people take a photograph that's pretty similar, but again, there's no detail. You can't make anything out. And just because they happen the same day doesn't mean this is the same creature or even object. And it certainly does not add credence to them both being the Loch Ness Monster. But it keeps the tourists flowing in, and that's for sure. And that's really what this is all about. It sounds exciting, but there's even more. So Campbell adds, quote, "Interestingly, a similar sighting was reported the day before. We're waiting for verification, but again, it appears that it might be the same thing. It too was at a different location, so it looks like Nessie is on the move. We're up to a likely total of 7 sightings for this year, which is fantastic. It could be another record year, as we're not even at the end of August yet," unquote. So there was 7 sightings for this year so far. And in case you're keeping track at home, there was 11 official sightings in the record last year. And what you didn't see there was my fingers doing air quotes around the official part. 11 official sightings in the record. I think it was last year. So that's the record, actually. That's the most sightings in the last 18 years. So since this century, 11 sightings. That's the record. And it happened last year after a long period of time. Actually, they thought that the Loch Ness Monster might have been gone, might have died, might have moved, might have been on holiday because there was no sightings. Now, come on. You can't really tell from those pictures. It could be a log. More than likely, it's a log. And I don't think I didn't. I'm thinking about, I did a presentation once where I was kayaking, and I had a picture of a very similar looking thing from a distance. And I kayaked closer and closer, and finally I showed you what it was. It was a sunken tree. Now, probably not a sunken tree in those areas because it wouldn't necessarily bob up and down, but it could be a tree that's floating, which does happen every now and again. And a lot of weird things happen in Loch Ness, actually mostly due to the depth and the shape of this lake. It's just very long and thin. So it's very susceptible to waves that travel a little bit differently and also to a thing called Seiche, where the water is slushing back and forth. You think of your bathtub. So there's a lot of potential explanations. And if you really can't identify it, it doesn't mean it's paranormal. Just because you don't know what it is, doesn't mean it's something that is undefinable or undistinguishable from anything else. But all that said, it's all well and done. But the end of the story kind of puts these sightings in perspective. And it's kind of why I, for the longest time, kind of shied away from these websites. And it's why I'm very careful as to the stories that I do cover from certain websites. But this other part of it, well, that's one part of it. The other part of it is the last line here. It says, quote, "The monster mystery is said to be worth 30 million British pounds to the region," unquote. 30 million British pounds. So that translates to nearly 40 million US dollars of tourist income just to this area, just because of the Loch Ness Monster. And everybody wants to buy a t-shirt, a little hat, a stuffed animal as a souvenir, just because of this purported creature. And so of course these stories are going to be, they're going to be a little loose in the fact-finding department, of course, a little rough around the edges. But like I started to say before, I think the real giveaway here is the first line just after the story. This is the real dead giveaway. And this is, again, why I kind of shy away from the Sun and some of these English online newspapers, because they're very blatant about this fact. And this fact reads, quote, "We pay for your stories and videos. Do you have a story or video for the Scottish Sun?" So this was from the Scottish Sun. And yes, they do pay you for stories and videos. So how legitimate does it really have to be? Do you have to have it researched? Do you have to prove anything? No. And it's been the downfall of YouTube for quite a while now, all those paid videos. And again, a lot of these, the Sun and the, I don't remember, there's like 5 or 6 British newspapers that are pretty much the same. They'll take anything. They don't care how real it is, because these stories get a lot of hits. They get anything paranormal or strange is strewn around the internet, and everybody's talking about them. Everybody wants to check them out. And I'm no different, I guess. But I'm keeping it real here. I'm telling you what I'm thinking is going on behind the scenes. And if you do remember, you've been listening to this show for a while, you remember a few years ago when it came out that publicly that they're pretty sure back in the 1930s, more than likely, there's actually a little bit of documentation to back this up, that the Loch Ness Monster was actually a creation of some of the innkeepers around Loch Ness to generate some attention and income. And right after that was when some of the more ridiculous hoaxes in Loch Ness Monster history occurred. I don't consider these hoaxes, even though these people might just be, they might know what they're doing. They might be actually taking pictures of logs or things. They might have been able to identify it, but they want to perpetuate the mystery. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when people claim it's definitely the Loch Ness Monster where I get a little, my feathers get a little ruffled. But yeah, back in the 30s and 40s, we had all kinds of fictitious stories and hoaxes, from the surgeon's photo, which was nothing more than a little claymation object basically floating on the water. It wasn't really a large creature, to a hippopotamus foot. Yes, there for a while they suspected that the Loch Ness Monster got out of the water every now and again and took a nap, I guess. So they used a hippopotamus foot to make tracks, and not just your regular run-of-the-mill hippopotamus foot. It was a stuffed hippopotamus foot. Even back then, they could determine through even a basic and elementary forensic methods. So, yes, the giant squid is true. It's real, and that's weird because I just put the giant squid on one of my presentations that I'm going to be doing at the Uncon in Piqua, Ohio, on I believe that's October 5th, 6th, 5th. 6th. Yes, October 6th. I'll be in Piqua, Ohio for the the unconventional convention. And I do talk about, yes, giant squids. And the kraken, however you want to, there's 3 ways to pronounce it, and all of them are wrong, I guess. But they're all also 3 right. I don't know. So anyway, yes, if you have a video and a story and you want to get paid, send it to England. They will gladly pay you Tuesday for a story on Wednesday. So yes, that's the Loch Ness Monster wrap up and update. But what about this missing Sasquatch? Has anyone heard that? Is it just me? Well, yes, there is a Sasquatch that's missing. And I probably wouldn't have normally talked about this particular story, but it kind of hits home to me. But it's in Montana. I don't live there. I'd like to live there. I like Montana. I'd love to move there, but probably not going to happen. Well, let me try something here. We're going to try this. See how this works. Playing around the chat room again. So you're going to have to wait here a second as I play in the chat room. As I try to get this last story put in here. And yes, it worked. Whoopie-doo. Wow, I did great. So anyway, we're going to move on to the... What happened here? This missing Sasquatch. How do you have a missing Sasquatch? We haven't found one, have we? Or have we? I think we have. So yes, a Sasquatch is missing, and the police are on the lookout. They've been made aware of this. I don't know if there's an all points bulletin. And no, this isn't a joke. This is serious. There are police in Helena, Montana, looking for Sasquatch. He's missing. And where's he missing from? Well, he's missing from Helena's Park and Recreation Department in Helena, Montana. They're the ones on the lookout as well for the Sasquatch that was abducted. Yes, abducted from a trailhead near Mount Ascension. The Sasquatch in question was a 7-foot-tall cardboard cutout designed to get people out in the wild to, well, look for it and to, well, take selfies with it and to explore the local parks and get people interested in the outdoors of Helena. Now, the reason why I said this hits home because a lot of parks around the United States do this very thing. They invite people out to walk around and look for the Sasquatch in their parks and recreation departments. And I've actually had the opportunity to do this as well. And I'm going to post the picture in the chat room there of me looking for Bigfoot. I never found him. I don't know where he was. I looked very, very hard. But I couldn't find him. I don't know where he went. I don't know. I did my best. But I couldn't find him anywhere. And like I said, a lot of parks do this. There's a lot of news stories about this where people are out looking for these Bigfoots with these cutouts. It's just a nice way to get people involved and get people out to these parks. And it's a real shame that somebody had to go and ruin it for all the other people. So last Tuesday, somebody notified the city that they found the cable that secured the cutout along with zip ties that were also cut that once held the Sasquatch. And it's gone. It's just missing. So they notified the Parks and Recreation Director Amy Teagarden said she was initially concerned that someone might try to steal one of the 2 Sasquatch cutouts that had been in place since early summer. But Teagarden is asking that whoever stole the cutout, please return it, and there will be no questions asked. It's such a shame, again, that somebody like this would steal this thing. But hopefully, Sasquatch, hopefully it'll return someday. And I guess my picture didn't go through, did it? Nope. It's sad though, and it's a shame that these things kind of, that they have to happen. But it's, I don't know. Maybe the people just didn't care. They were anti-Sasquatch. I don't know. But it is definitely a shame. And like I said, I've enjoyed that. Obviously, I'm in. Well, that didn't work either. Well, I try. Obviously, I have a little bit of a vested interest in this Bigfoot stuff. But even those people that really don't know too much about it or don't really follow the Bigfoot stuff, there's a lot of people out there looking for this stuff. So to me, it is a shame that a lot of other people can't enjoy this and get out there in the woods and try to find Sasquatch. I give up. They can't get it to work. But anyway, let's go from Helena, Montana to... Oh, so you guys see the picture? I don't see the picture. This is not found for me. Oh, well. I try. That's the beauty of live radio. So anyway, let's go to Australia. How's that? Next story here is, yes, from Australia. And Australia, they have the Yowie. I wish we had a Yowie. It just sounds so fun and exciting. Yowie's the kind of guy that you want to go and hang out with and play pool and drink rum and cokes with. I don't know. That's what I think when I hear the name Yowie. Well, a Yowie is actually the Australian version of Bigfoot, which has just about as much of a following there in Australia as his North American cousin does, and pretty much about the same non-belief about it at the same time. A really interesting encounter recently surfaced from the files of the Australian Yowie research team, led by 20-plus year researcher Dean Harrison. A woman was driving home from cricket practice, I guess that's what you do, back on March 5th of this year near the village of Yowie in the Mount Jerusalem National Park, when she felt the need to pull over and do what people do when they're driving. And she had to relieve herself. This is going to be a filthy show. That's part one. She pulled over to an area where it appeared that bulldozers had pushed over trees to make a clearing, and was just past a cow crossing area. So this is when things get really interesting, or pear-shaped, as she says. If things aren't interesting enough with a woman pulling over and relieving herself, I guess, put your seatbelt on, because this is going to get interesting. According to the anonymous witness and the report from Australian Yowie Research, this is what the witness said. She said, quote, and this is her words, not mine, quote, "I had finished my wee and heard something," and by we, it's not like the video game system here, and heard something around me and didn't know what it was. I did a howl, because that's what you do when you're peeing beside your car and you hear something weird. You just howl, right? To see if it was a feral dog and whatnot, and I got a response. I did some more howling, and I got more back. Then I got a growl and a grunting, so I got my cricket bat out. I don't know if this is before or after. I'm not asking questions. When it started doing tree knocking back at me, I guess she was hitting the cricket thing against it. I don't know. I thought, oh yeah, it's someone playing silly buggers with me, but there's no houses out there. It's just bush. I thought it must have been some smart Alec out there playing a joke on me. She didn't say Alex, she said something else. It knocked twice, so I knocked back twice. I knocked again, and it did the same back. I thought stuff this, and did a howl and a scream. That's when everything went pear-shaped. I heard thumping coming down the hill into the gully in front of me. At first, I thought it was a kangaroo, but I've never heard anything that heavy before. It was like the ground moving underneath me. It went down the hill into the gully, then came up the gully towards me. I was like, what have I got myself into? It was now about 10 meters in front of me, coming up the hill, a steep embankment, and I really had really bad vibes from this thing. I heard a scream, grunt, and growl, all in one. I jumped in my car, turned on my high beams, and there it was standing in front of me. I know it was no person in a suit. It was standing on the fire trail, 6 to 7 feet tall and full of hair. And here's the best part. It had breasts. I went for my phone to take a photo of it. I didn't take my eyes of it when I was reaching for the phone. Then off she went, back down in the gully. It was scary. When it was in my headlights, it was 6 to 7 foot. It had a face with eyes about golf ball size. They play golf in Australia? Apparently they do. It had really long hair, which, as a guess, would have been about 5 inches long. I was just staring. It was just standing there staring at me. When I was reaching for my phone, I saw that its hands were all the way down towards its knees. The arms were huge. The eyes glowed with or without the light bar. It smelled like 5-week-old roadkill. It wasn't a person in a suit. It had breasts. I wish I had gotten a photo. I really wish I had got a photo. It had hair down its cleavage and hair around the top of its breasts. Some part of the breasts had hair and some parts without hair. The hair color was a light brown, but the skin color was blacker. The hair around the face was a light brown. The hair around the hands was black. The rest was light to darkish brown. The scariest thing I've ever seen. The face was like a gorilla's face. Instead of being round like a human face, this was more of an oval size. It had big golf ball size eyes. Most reports you read tell of red eyes, but these were reddish blue, and they lit up with my light bar on. It had a nose that looked pushed in type of thing. It had a beard and hair over its top lip. One thing I found strange was the mouth. The mouth is small. The human's mouth is small, rather. This one's mouth was 5 to 7 inches long. It had a big mouth on it. I didn't see any teeth because its mouth wasn't open. I was standing there. It was standing there swaying side to side. It was behind a fern, but over towering the fern and going from side to side. It had hands down and just doing the side-to-side motion. When I reached my phone, it must have seen it light up or something because it just took off down the valley. I didn't get a chance for a photo. As I went for the button, off she went down the hill, unquote. And I don't know. I had to read that because there's a lot of times that she kind of contradicts herself and repeats things, which isn't normal. It's a little weird. But I don't know. I didn't hear this. I didn't hear the interview. I didn't hear her talk. This is all written down. So there's a lot of interesting information in her account, and I'll tell you what. There's a lot of detail. And for this being the scariest thing she's ever seen, that is a lot of detail to remember. Length of hair and the specific color and specific areas of this color and shape of eyes, and being that descriptive about these things and using all these verbs and I don't know. It just it's not your normal kind of interview, and I would be highly suspect of this account if I were the investigator, but I'm not for this particular case. But it just seems very suspect to me, especially if she's saying this is the scariest thing she'd ever seen. Now, one thing that struck me was this description of the eyes lighting up. So she said at once that it wasn't the with or without the light bar. So it'd be self-illuminating eyes, which as far as I know, there's only one fish in the world that does that, and lives pretty deep down in the ocean. So animals don't have eyes that self-illuminate. That's only in the movies. But probably they were more than likely reflecting from something. Whether she's saying light bar, maybe she had her headlights on, maybe day runners. I don't know if they have day runners in Australia. I don't know. But I would say the eyes were not self-illuminating, more than likely reflecting from the light created from the car, or whether she realized it or not. And the reflection of light of certain animals' eyes is created from a tissue layer called the tabetum lucidum, which a lot of people know. It's It's behind the retina, and it basically reflects light that's brought into the eye, and it's reflected back out to aid in night vision. And it's basically in animals that are out at night, nocturnal animals. It's present in a lot of animals, cats and dogs as well. So don't recommend it. Don't flash a flashlight in your dog's eyes, but when you take a picture, you'll see those reflections. Lots of nocturnal animals, most have it, deer and owls and whatnot. Primates, including humans, well, we lack a tabetum lucidum. We don't have that. In part to being diurnal. Basically, that means more active during the day and resting at night. And the other interesting thing is the color of the eye shine. When people tell me I saw this color or that color, a lot of times that can actually tell me what the type of animal was potentially seen. And the color she describes is a reddish blue, which is actually conflicting because animals either usually have a red, blue, green, or yellow reflection. It's usually not in between unless maybe the eyes are moving or the head is moving. Or you take a picture, which really messes with things. But if you see that, well, that's an odd color to see. Maybe she got something a little wrong. I don't know. But I do know that cows do emit a bluish tint to their eye shine. And it's interesting enough that she did say that she described being in a cow crossing area. So maybe that's what she saw. And she just confused it. Maybe she saw a black cow and it was dark and she was scared. I don't know where she got the hair from because cows normally aren't very hairy. I don't know. Not sure what she saw, but it's really strange. Might she have heard one animal and ended up seeing another? It's possible. Might parts of her account be created from her expectations, from her fear? Because she actually did describe sightings of Yowie in this particular area in another part of her account, which I did not read here. So she was already well aware of Yowie, and she assumed already that it was a Yowie. So I don't know. I wasn't there, and I'm not that familiar with the Australian backcountry to know what their cows look like. But maybe their cows could look like a Sasquatch or a Yowie. Is it possible that a female Yowie might have been doing the same business as this cricket player was and startled her? I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows? But I don't want to find out. It was just a wacky story. And we're going to move to ghost news. Sorry, no UFO news this week, but ghost news. Well, she's back. Yes, she's back in the news again this week. I've mentioned Amethyst Realm before, actually a few times in the last couple of weeks. Well, she's the woman that had given up on corporeal men and decided to mix it up with the ghost world. She announced that she's found her main ghost now and is not only looking to get married, but she wants to have a ghost baby. And she, along with the rest of the world, has no idea how that's going to work. And I don't think nature has any clue either. But nonetheless, she's back in the news. Well, what has she got to say this week? Well, her big news this week is when she was leaving Australia, well, she had a good old time with her ghost partner in the bathroom of a jet. So in the airplane on the way home. Well, so now in addition to losing her fiance by cheating on him with a ghost, so I guess he actually walked in on her and she was dressed in lingerie, doing whatever, and claimed it was with a ghost. So he left her, probably a smart guy here. And she's now joined the Mile High Club with a ghost. I don't know if you can claim that, but apparently she is. She's got the shirt now. I guess you get a shirt with that. I don't know. I'm not a member of that. A lot of people have been quick to attack Amethyst, but you actually have to wonder why the media is so quick to believe everything she says and give her attention that she desires. Instead of really, I would have a psychiatrist or a psychologist come on the show when she's on the show to just kind of ask her some questions, see if there's potentially underlying issues behind this fascination, just to rule out some of the possible negative things that might be going on before truly believing the story that has absolutely no way of being validated. This to me sounds like something that belongs on Jerry Springer. I mean, really, it does. I mean, I just can't wait for the DNA results to come back. All right, crickets. Yeah, I don't know. Well, hopefully maybe that I've covered the story a few times. Maybe I'll get invited to the wedding. I don't know. I am a licensed wedding officiant here in the state of Ohio. If you want to come out here, I'll gladly do it for free. So that was a bizarre story, but that's not the most bizarre story at all. And even in the ghost world. So yes, this takes the cake. If there's cake to be given out, which I don't have any. Yes, the last story was bizarre, but this one beats having Whoopi on a plane to get into the Mile High Club with a ghost. Yes, believe it or not, this one's even better. At least I think so. I think this is even more wackier than that one. A 25-year-old Connecticut man is facing charges after shooting a ghost with a gun. Twice. In the kneecaps. Yes. Christian J. Devereaux. Or DeVaux. I don't know. D-E-V-A-U-X. DeVaux. We'll just call him DeVaux. Called 911 back on July 26th to report a break-in that was in progress in his home. Now, DeVaux stated that a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt and a mask was in his home and also holding a rifle. While he was on the phone with the dispatcher, he could be heard yelling, "Hey," to the suspect, and then firing 2 shots in what sounded like an attempt to scare away the perpetrator. Well, I guess that's not hip to call it a perpetrator. I guess you have to be, the television shows call it the unsub, or in other words, unknown subject. Troopers arrived at the home, but strangely found no evidence of a break-in whatsoever. A quick canvass of the area included the use of dogs, but they found no evidence. No scent for the dogs either. Not that the dogs were looking for any forensic evidence, but they were looking, sniffing for scents. They didn't find anything. Well, not scents as in money. You know what I mean. You got it. Not chocolate. No, they weren't looking for chocolate. Dogs can't have chocolate. Anyway, neighbors who were home at the time also did not see or hear anything, well, with the exception of the 2 gunshots. DeVaux claimed he fired 2 shots over the head of the intruder to scare him off. It sounds like a pretty good thing there. Well, the holes from the rounds that he fired were embedded in the wall. Of course, they found them, so that was true. But they were only 3 feet from the floor. So that must have been some short robber if you fired 2 shots over his head. Troopers also questioned DeVaux's purported location when he fired the shots, as they found shell casings that were well out in front of that area. So he's actually a little bit closer to the wall than what he claimed. So this is a little mysterious here. And with his story falling apart and law enforcement becoming increasingly suspicious of the activities, DeVaux actually said, quote, "There are some things I just can't explain, like seeing ghosts," unquote. He went on to explain that he had been a paranormal investigator for 6 or 7 years and that he had recently seen an apparition during an investigation. So DeVaux finally admitted that there had been no one in the house, but when asked if he possibly had seen a ghost, he replied, quote, "It had to be," unquote. So DeVaux was later charged with illegal discharge of a firearm, making a false statement to police, second-degree reckless endangerment, misusing an emergency call, and disorderly conduct. If all that sounds a little harsh, just keep this in mind, that he made a similar account back in 2011, where he had heard a loud bang and then supposedly found a person in his home and called police. That search also found absolutely nothing in the way of evidence, and there was no ghost either at that time. So could it have been a ghost? Well, possibly, but if these are the only two accounts, then I would wonder about the mental status of Mr. DeVoe here, and I don't know. I think there might be something else going on here. I don't think you're going to see ghosts and then just call 911. There's usually a little bit of other stuff going on. And real quick, I want to cover this story real quick. Trust me, hang in there. You're gonna like this one. It's in other news, and I wanted to cover this last week. So you wondered about the camel. Here's about the camel. So the second largest radio telescope in the world is about to get an upgrade. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite radio telescope. It might be second largest, but this is better than what China's got. It was recently announced that the National Science Foundation, the NSF, just awarded $5.8 million in funding to add a new super sensitive antenna to the 1,000-foot telescope dish that is housed in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. The new antenna will allow the Arecibo radio telescope to hear a bigger chunk of the sky at the same time. The new antenna is called the Advanced Cryogenic L-band Phased Array Camera for Arecibo. So if that sounds like a mouthful, Advanced Cryogenic L-band Phased Array Camera for Arecibo, we just got to shorten that up. We'll just call it Alpaca. Alpaca. That sounds great. You know what? I think they just took alpaca and they just made up all these other things. Well, the sad news with this is this project that the main feed antenna, which will not be replaced by this antenna, it's going to be in addition to the antenna, is very damaged. It's still damaged. It's hanging from its housing and it can't be used at this time. And unfortunately, it's going to take a few years until it can be fully repaired. But alpaca, meanwhile, I know it doesn't make sense because it's ACLPACA. I don't know. Maybe they just skip cryogenic. So Advanced Cryogenic L-band Phased Array Camera for Arecibo, Alpaca. It's not going to be operational until 2022, but I'm sure you're going to hear about it when it goes live right here on this show. Carl Warnick, an engineering professor at Brigham Young University, said about the antenna, quote, "We're taking the most sensitive radio telescope in the world and opening it up so you can view a larger part of the sky at one time. There's a lot of things in space you can see with an optical camera, but you can see even more with a radio telescope." And that's true. And that's why I love this dish. And I'll tell you what, you may wonder, well, why are you even talking about space telescopes or radio telescopes, or why do you cover this stuff? And I'm telling you, in the next few years, you're going to be hearing about some very big findings out in space. And it's all going to be because of these radio telescopes and these new telescopes are going to be launched into space. We've already seen hundreds of exoplanets discovered within the last few years. And this is just the beginning. And there's some big stuff coming up in the next couple of years with the new telescope. They just launched another one just a couple of months ago. So I'm telling you what, folks, you're going to hear a lot of stuff from this. And this is going to change a lot of things about how we think about the universe around us. So I'm going to leave you with that tonight. And just remember, sleep tight. Don't be embarrassed to sleep with the lights on after listening to this stuff. But I will see you next week. But for now, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, the hair standing on the back of your neck, and above all else, don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting